What's up, fam? Welcome back to Recap Kickback, the podcast where I talk about movies and TV and all the other stuff I want to talk about. It's me, your boy Chappell, the host of Recap Kickback. And this week, as y'all know, our girl Mari is out doing mommy things. And so while she is gone, Chappelle will run rampant and do whatever he wants to do because, the cops is gone, y'all. So with me this week, in place of Mari, someone who you know well by now. And if you don't know well, get to know her because she will be back plenty of more times whenever she wants to come back, honestly. It's Latonya Starks. Latonya, what's up?
Hey everybody. I will never refer to Mari as the cops. I just want
She's
that
the
to be on
feds, y'all.
record.
I am on record saying that she ain't here and she can't whoop me right now. So I'm gonna talk my noise while she gone, y'all.
Well, good luck with that.
Latonya, how's things been?
It's been a really big week for Applebee's.
Boy, yeah, too much Applebee's for one time for me. I'm not a fan, but these television shows, Survivor, and now this movie as well. Good press for Applebee's or just press? Is this good for them?
It has to be net good because honestly, who was talking about Applebee's?
That's true.
I will talk about Applebee's for money since everyone else is getting in on it. But I feel like Applebee's is not like the hot topic of conversation. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's normally not at the front of conversations. I could pick a billion other restaurants I'd rather talk about, but like you said, this week Applebee's is the star because Applebee's comes up in an episode of Survivor, but also in this movie. Because today, that is right, we are talking about the new Zendaya movie, Challengers, where there is a scene in Applebee's, but enough to put Applebee's, at the front of conversations for a lot of people. But that is probably the least interesting thing about this incredible movie that we just watched. And so I'm very happy to have you here to talk about it. I know you're an expert on this film, having that you've already talked about it before on another podcast. And so it's perfect to have you here. So if you're here listening to us talk right now, of course, send us a 5-star review on recapkickback.com. That'll send it to Apple, Spotify, whomever. Make sure you let them know that you enjoy us, that you came here to listen to our content. And then, of course, hit that subscribe button here on YouTube to let us know that you're watching, that you're subscribed, and to keep up with all the Recap Kickback content like this movie review of Challengers. So, Latonya, like I said, as an expert on this, you've podcasted about this not once already, but this will be your second time
my second
talking
podcast.
about it. Yeah, I don't know what I could bring to the table that you didn't already handle in the first one.
I feel like there's a lot that could be brought to the table. Because I feel like this is a movie that rewards a rewatch for sure. You go into it. I mean, first of all, I feel like I've personally been waiting for this movie for years now. There was a commercial out before all the stuff happened with SAG-AFTRA and the strike, and then the strike happened, and they were like, "Well, we're not going to be getting that movie for a very long time," and everyone was like, "What? No, not our like bisexual threesome tennis movie. We're owed that." So I feel like now the entire internet is just really getting in on the Tashi Duncan of it all. By the way, the lead character of this movie's name is Tashi Duncan.
They said this lady is a freak.
Exactly.
Yeah, look, not to bury the lead, but the movie Challengers has been talked about a lot, as Latonya said. We've seen previews, and it's a spicy conversation because in most of the previews or the advertisements for the movie, you see Zendaya and these two handsome men, and she's right in the middle of what we can only imagine is some scandalous activity, right? And we're like, ooh, bring us that. She's kissing them, they kissing each other, they kissing her. Oh, when is that coming? And so we waited and we waited and we waited. And then all of a sudden it was just out. And I was like, oh, wait, it's back. And so it happened. We've watched it. And so if you haven't seen it already, this is a full spoiler podcast. And so we're going to talk about all the aspects of the movie. If you have seen it, then strap in because we're going to talk about it all. And hopefully you hear something you like, or if you think we missed something or something, let us know. Go to recapkickback.com, go to recapkickback@gmail.com and email us and let us know, hey, this is some stuff I thought was cool in the movie. Leave it in the comments or something like that. And we'll be sure to bring it up next time we talk because, yeah, Latonya, I have probably some hot takes about this movie already.
This is why I wanted to do this podcast, because I feel like this is going to be my personality for a while. Whereas, you
Mm-hmm.
move in and out of pop culture, like the pop culture melee. So I kind of am here for the Chappell takes, and then I will represent all of the people who are just obsessed at this point with this movie and learning as much about it as you possibly can until the next thing comes around that Zendaya produces.
Yeah. Oh, so this was produced by Zendaya as well.
Yeah. So one of the big things about this movie is that this was a script that landed on the Blacklist, which is a list of unproduced Hollywood scripts, and that happened in like December of 2021. In February 2022, it was announced that MGM got the film and Luca Guadagnino was going to be directing it. And he's known for all of the bisexual fantasy movies, like gay and bisexual fantasy movies, basically.
Is that a big genre?
For Luca Guadagnino, sure. Yeah.
No, I mean, like, is there a lot? Is there like, because I've only heard about this film. I gotta know, like, am I missing some other big names?
I feel like he also did Call Me by Your Name. He did Bones and All, which was a movie about like cannibal lovers starring Timothée Chalamet. He's worked like twice with Timothée Chalamet. Timothée Chalamet was also like the co-lead in Call Me by Your Name, which was a very like awakening of like a gay love movie.
It's a Lil Nas X song.
Exactly.
That's all I keep hearing. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So Luca Guadagnino is kind of known for these types of movies, but the thing about this is that Zendaya, this is the first movie where she actually is serving as a producer, so she got to choose who her co-stars were going to be, and she chose Josh O'Connor to play Patrick Spike and Mike Feist to play Art Donaldson. So those of you who are familiar with those names are familiar with them for different reasons. The first is Josh O'Connor, who everyone knows as like young Prince Charles of the Crown. That's like everyone came to know who he was. And then Mike Feist, who I honestly did not know before this movie, because I did not watch Steven Spielberg's West Side Story.
Gotcha.
But he was Griff in West Side Story. He was also apparently in he's a musical theater guy. And like just really well known for being great at musical theater, which is another of like the random pools that I like to swim in as well. So I didn't realize that he was a dancer and a singer, in addition to being a really good actor, according to this movie.
Yep, never seen these men before in my life. I was like, oh, okay. These Zendaya finding these relative unknowns and putting them on. I mean, and then I go and look at this man's Wikipedia, and I'm like, oh, Tony Award nominee, that kind of thing. Newsies. Oh wow, this does everybody else know that he's been acting for so long? Dear God, am I the only one out the loop? It is very entertaining to me.
And I did not know that he wasn't British. That man has the most British face you have ever seen in your entire life.
His Wikipedia says Ohio. I was like, what? In Ohio?
And Josh O'Connor actually is British.
Wow. Nope. Could knock me over with a feather because that man is British. I don't care what anybody says. Mike Feist, British. I'm looking at him right now. That
is a British man.
He literally got a nomination for a British Academy Film Award. If that doesn't make you British, then nothing will. I'm just saying. He was in the Broadway musical of Dear Evan
That,
Hansen,
what
which
I was
I have
thinking
seen
of.
that. Yeah,
I'm sure you are a noted, like, well, it should be more noted that you are a fan of musicals, Chappelle.
I am not a fan of musicals. I've seen 7. Like literally
I
7. I can name them all.
That's enough musicals to make you a fan of musicals, because
Really?
you see one musical and you're like, I didn't like that, and you never go
Yeah,
back. It's just a thing that you either can or
that's
cannot
true.
deal with.
I can deal with them. That is true. I've seen because I saw Dear Evan Hansen. I was forced to watch that, and then they were like, "Okay, now let me show you a good musical." And then they showed me Hades Town, and I was like, "Okay,
Yes,
now you have my
yes,
attention. That's a good
right.
musical." I've seen Hamilton,
Hmm.
which is a good musical. I've
Yes.
seen Mamma Mia, which is not a good musical. Don't let people lie to you. It is bad. It's very ghetto, very ratchet. It is. And then dang, I said 7, but it might have been less than 7. Oh, I've seen the Book of Mormon. That's the other one
Look
I've
at
seen.
that. There you
Yeah.
go.
I almost got through all of it. So I think, yeah, I think at this
Yeah,
point, yeah, throwing a stray Dream Girls, I've probably seen maybe
of course
once.
you've seen Dreamgirls.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
think that's like
Yeah.
6-ish.
That's a good amount of musicals to start with, you know?
So as the musical enthusiast here on this podcast, I would just like to say that I was very happy with Mike Weiss and his performance here in this role as a breakout role here, Latonya, because I've never seen this man before in my life, but I'm a fan. I thought he did really good in this role.
Breakout troublemaking role.
Yeah, I do
Just
love trouble.
this man caused some trouble during this movie.
And look, and I was here for it. It was very good trouble. It was good trouble, and like I
Was
said,
it?
it was well, I mean, I think it made for a good movie. So, before we get lost into the characters, let's just outline the plot for the people who are
Yeah.
not familiar. You have Zendaya, who is Tashi. Tashi is the new it girl in tennis. She's we get several flashbacks, but at the earliest, she is like a young up and coming tennis star who is contemplating going pro, but probably just going to go to college to play tennis. And she is the apple of everybody's eyes, which is why you cast Zendaya in a role like this, right? Like somebody who
Yeah.
just like anybody can fall in love with. So here you go. And so in this time as a tennis player, she meets these two men who they've grown up together. They've grown up alongside each other at boarding school and stuff, and they are very connected, besties. They do everything together. They even sometimes try to holler at the same woman, and that is Zendaya. Now, we will learn very quickly that Zendaya, she loves a good competition. She just does. If you're going to compete, she's going to let it happen. And so eventually we find the three of them were competing for each other's attention, both guys competing for Zendaya's attention, and her just kind of navigating that and going, I won't say where the wind blows, but going wherever the competition is strongest. And so we will navigate that all the way to the end to where one of the guys is forced to play tennis against his counterpart. They haven't been friends for a while, due largely to their interaction with Zendaya. And the movie ends with what some would call a cliffhanger of sorts, or some type of mixed interpretation ending that I would love to talk about with Latonya. But that is the movie. That is challenges. I'm pretty sure those are the big points. Now, it gets freaky in the middle, but I think that kind of outlines what we're talking about.
Yeah. Just like I'm just happy to be in a time where a movie like this can get made. And be starring somebody like Zendaya. I mean, they have a line in this movie like, "Aren't you everybody's type?" And it's just very much she very much is, like, demographically. So there's been studies done. So like, it's just some of the things that she gets to say, I'm just proud of her for getting to say those things in a movie to someone. Like when her husband asked for her unconditional love, she's like, "Who am I, Jesus?"
Right.
Like,
so you want something that I'm supposed to like. Well, since when? I was like, well, she has a good point. Isn't it? It's underrated how people will say stuff like that to you, and then you think about it, and you're like, but God is supposed to give you that. Like that's not supposed to come from everybody. There are conditions on love in real life.
Yeah, as there should be. I'm very glad that you feel that way. I feel like a lot of people do not feel that way, or at least they want to pretend that they don't. And they're just not being very truthful with themselves.
Right. Because unconditional love sounds like no matter what you do, I will still love you. And I will go on record right now and tell you there's not one person in the world that falls into that category for me. There's always a line where I will choose myself over you. You know what I'm saying? And we've seen Jesus make ultimate sacrifices that you will never see Chappell make. So Zendaya, right on the right track with this one, Latonya. But you're right. This is such an empowering role for someone like Zendaya, who was largely looked at as like as a child actress. Essentially, she's now gotten such huge roles. A lot of times, still playing young women. Playing young like kids almost. And in this
Yeah.
role, we see Zendaya, the young lady, but then we also see her as a grown woman, and then we see her years into a relationship. So we see some growth in Zendaya that I don't think we've seen in a lot of her roles before.
Yeah, she's never played a mother before. This is her first
Right.
time. And when I say playing a mother, I mean the
Like
way
at the
that like
mother
rich
convention.
people play. Yeah, well that she is mother. I see her eat every day. Um and and also like, they have a child in this movie, which
Do they?
is the most hilarious we have a child. Because her mother has another child that she now gets paid to help make go into a different room.
Yeah.
And sometimes they interact with that child, but that's it.
Mhm.
That's it.
Yeah.
They have a child in the way that rich people have kids.
I'm glad you brought that up because there is a scene in the movie where Zendaya is going to find her husband slash baby daddy, and she goes to the hotel room and she doesn't see him, and she starts to panic like, "Oh my god, where is he? Did he leave? Is he gone? What happened?" And then she goes in the other room and he's just laying in the bed with the child. She's like, "All right, we do have one of those. He can spend time with the kid. That makes sense." Like I forgot there was another person in the hotel. I was like, "Oh, that's what." Duh.
That's why the mom is there.
Right. They kept bringing it up. This is why we stay in hotels because Billy, I think is the kid's name.
Lily.
Lily. She likes it. She likes this.
Chappell said F them kids.
Lily Eyelash. That's her name.
Lilium.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think it's really funny that at a certain age in Hollywood you become a mom.
Mhm.
And it makes me feel all kinds of old that Zendaya has become a mom on screen.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna put that out there.
No, I remember back in the days, back when Hollywood was young, or not as old, but it would be very commonplace for you to see a woman playing a mother of somebody who she's like 2 years older than. Like, oh yeah, like she played their mom in this role, but also there's a 15-20 year age difference
Yeah.
between these people. I think of Garrett Morris, I think his name is from the Jamie Foxx show. Him and Aunt Helen are like 25 years apart. I was like, Aunt Helen. She's closer to Jamie Foxx's age than she was to Uncle Junior's age. I'm like, why didn't anybody say anything? So
They don't care.
Yeah, but Zendaya she's ascended. She's now in the mommy role. I feel like once you break the seal, you can like she can't ever go back. Like now she can be somebody's mom in a sitcom or in a movie or something like that. It's time.
It's ridiculous, is what
Yes.
it is. But I guess on the plus side of things, it could create a new generation of Zendayas.
That's true. And we love Zendayas. So, bring us more Zendayas, I guess.
More.
Yeah, more. Why not more? Latonya, Zendaya, like I said, she is the titular, the main person, I guess, in this role. I was gonna say the titular role, but she's not the challenger. She's very much just lining challengers up. I thought it was so fascinating that she is the Zendaya character. Everybody has eyes on her. And she is a seemingly attracted, and this is just my takeaway. I haven't read any articles or anything, but she is attracted to the challenge. It is more like the competition between these two guys is really what is getting her going. And when they're not competing, whether it's in tennis or against each other for her affection, she's kind of indifferent. She's like, I don't really know what to tell you if you're not battling for something. If you're not trying to win something, why are you here?
You're not trying to win something. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Like Tashi, in my opinion, Tashi's first love is tennis, which is why they have a scene that I know we'll talk about where they're all like down at the rocks at this event that is built around Tashi, and they're talking about like why would someone like Tashi possibly go to college as opposed to just going pro, and she's just like, well, you don't understand what tennis is. Tennis is a relationship. Like it's like the only time when we're actually really alive and like communicating with each other. So her first love and the thing that she does incredibly well is tennis. And ultimately, this is like a horror show for her, because the thing that she loves and loves to talk about and just like loves to think about more than anything in the world gets taken away from her.
Mhm.
And these two men are involved the whole way in
Yeah.
some way, shape, or form. So she gets to see them go ahead and have the possibility of living the dream that she always wanted to live. And if you're not going to be great yourself, you become great by making others great, I guess.
Mhm.
Um, and so, yes, she very much cares about the tennis. She very much cares about the competition. Um, we see that when they're having that like scene where they're all on the bed together, it's for Tachi. She's just like, I bet I can make them kiss, basically.
Yeah.
Like, I bet I can like mastermind this situation into like making them kiss. And she does. And then once she's done that, she's like, all right, I've accomplished that competition goal.
Right. Okay, bye. And then she ups and leaves. But yeah, let's explore how we get there. So it starts, like you said, Zendaya loses. Tashi loses one of the things that makes her who she is, and that's the
Mm-hmm.
tennis thing. She gets hurt. And so we see her and her husband at the time, Art, I
Art.
believe.
Mm-hmm.
Art is the husband. Yeah.
Art
We see them
Donaldson.
talking, and she cannot play tennis anymore. She has hurt herself. We don't know why yet, but she can't do it, but he can. And so she's like his trainer, his coach, but it doesn't seem like his heart is in it. And so she's like, listen, what do I have to do to get you back playing? Because if I could be playing, there's nothing that would stop me. Like she's like, you
Yeah.
know what I would give to be able to bounce back from an injury like you had? Like,
Yeah. I would have
I
killed
need that.
someone. I would have
Right,
killed a
exactly.
child or an old woman.
She definitely would have. She listen. She has a child right now. She's not acknowledging, and and that's not going to help her get back on the court. But yeah, it starts there, and you can tell very early on that Art might be losing his love for tennis, but that might also be causing Zendaya to lose her love for Art,
For sure.
considering they met on the tennis court. That was the first time they really laid eyes on each other, was when Art and his friend were going after Zendaya and trying to figure out, okay, well, who stands the best shot at getting Tashi's number, hooking up with Tashi, having sex with Tashi. They were just doing like they were broing down and
Mm-hmm.
talking about her as if she was the prize, when in reality, she could not be bothered. She's just like, I mean, it's kind of entertaining that y'all are competing with each other right in front of me, so I'll allow it. And that's what leads them ultimately to their hotel room.
Yes. Um Patrick is just kind of like, come back to the room. Art's like, there's no way she's gonna do it. She actually gets back there. We learn about, like, we've seen these two have a very close bond with each other. We see that they have, played doubles tennis together, which is very adorable. We see that they are like going to check out Tashi's match together, which is like, in this movie, the tennis is the sex.
Mm-hmm.
So like they have the all of the like a history of these sexual experiences together, essentially.
Yeah.
Like when they're both watching Tashi play, one of them for the first time, it is like a sexual awakening in a way for them.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're like Patrick even grabs Art's thigh at one point at like a climactic point in the
Yeah.
actual match itself. So
Mm-hmm.
these two have their own interesting relationship, I think. And I love the way that all the little touches in the movie allude to that. The story that they tell Zendaya in the hotel room about how Art taught or
Well,
no,
hold on. Well, hold on. Let's
all
not
right,
let's not
yeah,
jump right to there, because we're gonna have to really dive into that conversation. I want to just go ahead and preface this with this movie hella bisexual, okay? Hella. Like Latonya
yeah,
kind of just glossed over the fact that this grown man grabbed this other man's thigh in the middle of a tennis match. I don't think I've ever had a man grab my thigh. Period. That is the sentence. Like, it's never happened. I think my thighs have been untouched by men. And so for that to happen in this movie, they make a point of letting you know that it happened, right? There's a lot of, like, what do they call it, homoerotic vibes in this movie. Like, We're eating
Tons.
churros and
They're
bananas.
only eating bananas, churros, and hot dogs.
Dick-shaped foods only.
Just,
Like that's
just
it.
phallic-shaped foods. That's
I
it.
said, so y'all, it's like they dropped that trailer a year ago to see how people would kind of like to gauge how people would feel about like the bisexuality of it.
Right.
And then when people were like, oh, more of that, there's a bet. And so now every scene is basically like, isn't that a little gay? That's a little gay, don't you think? Like, turn that up some more. It was a lot of that.
There's like scenes in this movie that ultimately I don't think have much meaning that still have that subtext. Like the "Call Me by Your Name" thing was that Timothy Chalamet screwed a peach, right? There's like a basket of
Stop. So hold on, slow down. When you say screw the peach, is that like screw the peach? Is that like French? Oh, I was like, oh, screw the peach. Okay, like he didn't have sex with a fruit. That's not what Timothy Chalamet did.
Yes, he did.
Do the Oompa Loompas know? Like, I just feel like you have to let everybody in on something like this. Like, you can't just start having sex with peaches and we all just think, okay, that's fine. That's normal. You go, Chalamet.
The funniest thing about that press tour was that ridiculous Capricorn boy being honest about the fact that he had actually done it. He was like, well, how could I portray it if I had not myself done it?
I don't understand what you're saying, Latonya. When you say it, you do not mean had sex with a peach, because Chalamet, my brother in Christ, I won't even lie like that. Chalamet, what did you, huh? So was he saying, this is completely off topic, but he was saying he had sex with a peach in preparation for this? Or it was like, I saw the role, needed somebody to have sex with the peach, and I was like, oh, I've done that before. I'm the man for the job.
I've done it before, but just like,
I'm down to do it on camera. I need more context, Latonya. I'm sorry. It's just, I have questions.
It was in the script that this was something that he was going to have to do. And so he thought to himself in his private time, not in front of a camera, well, I guess like this is something I should maybe try.
And he didn't film it. I feel like if you have sex with a peach, at that point you have to drop it. Only fuzz. Like you gotta drop the footage. You gotta have to. I'm not that I would watch it, but I mean, if you told me somebody's having sex with a peach, I'm not
go watch the movie Call Me by Your Name.
I'm not gonna go watch that movie, but if somebody can just send me the scenes I need to see, you know.
Well, in this movie, in a scene where they're just like waiting to go on court, there's just like a giant basket of peaches. There's no need,
no reason.
There's no need for them to be there.
Yeah.
Other than for us to be thinking about bisexual things at all times while this movie is occurring.
Peach is officially the most bisexual fruit of all time, and it's not even close. Like I will never look at a peach the same. Like I didn't look for at pies the same for a very long time either, thanks to American Pie. Yeah. And I don't even eat apple pie.
Cinema really does keep upping the ante in terms of what you can and cannot have sex with.
So you went from a fruit pie to just the fruit.
The fruit.
So now, like, you gotta have sex with the tree?
I guess.
Yeah, you got to get to the root of the problem. You know?
Someone has had to do it, but yeah, there's a lot of bisexual things happening in this movie. There's a lot of like panic that's happening at the disco. Like people are. people are just really like, everyone's very horny and in very good shape, so this makes sense. Yeah. It's like, you know, when they talk about the amount of condoms they give out at the Olympic Village, like,
right,
you know, some of those are going to be just to be like, here, I got my Olympic Village condoms, but like most of those are getting used by all of the attractive people that we have like congregating around here for Olympic reasons.
So you're saying there should be a limit on the level of attractiveness for the bisexual people, because at some point, like,
what?
Because if at some point they get so attractive that it's like, okay, well, who could blame you? You know, go have sex. You know, like, what are you doing? If you look like you, wouldn't you do it too? You know, because that's what the Olympic Village people are doing. It's a competition for them too. You know what I'm saying? They're like,
it is.
How many laps can I run? How many things can I swim? How many people can I mount? You know, like, I'm pretty sure they're coming through all those thought processes.
If you don't think that sex is a competition, then I don't know.
Why are you
what
in the
we
Olympics
have to
anyway?
Discuss? Yeah,
right. Like, whose country are you representing in the Olympics? Really, if you're competing in the sex Olympics part, like, that's the part we need to keep up with. Latonya, they end up in the bedroom, and this is where it gets really by, right? Because it's like
Yes.
Zendaya says, I'm not here to be a homewrecker. And when she said
Exactly.
that, I thought she was insinuating, I'm not here to, like, y'all are obviously a couple and of some
Right.
sorts. I'm not here to break that up. But I kind of now thinking back, she probably was just making a joke of like, I'm not here to ruin your friendship. You know, y'all are both like flirting with me, and I'm not here to ruin your friendship. But now I can see it both ways. Like I said, it's very bi. You know, I was like,
It's
I'm
very
like,
bad. I
is
mean,
this a
I saw
friendship?
no, I saw it as what as like you two are in a relationship.
Obviously.
Um everyone can tell at this point.
Right, but you can't just assume somebody is gay like that. She's like, so I'm not trying to be a homewrecker, but y'all clearly got something going on. It's like, ma'am, they listen. Even if that is the case, if these are both homosexual men, they are getting you back to that room for something. So you know, like I don't think you have to. If you thought they weren't attracted to you, I think at some point you have to say, why am I here? You know, like
Yeah.
why did y'all call me? I think she kind of knows that they're at least mildly interested in her being in the vicinity when it happens.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you know, they've been in the vicinity of each other before when acts have happened.
Yeah, tell the story. You can now look, now you can give people the moment where we all everybody collectively in the movie theater clutches their pearls and kind of raises an eyebrow like, "Oh."
So, Patrick taught Art how to masturbate.
You can't just say stuff like that in a movie. You know, like he said it, and me and Zendaya at the same time were like, "Come again?"
Like, what do you mean?
Yeah, but what does that
What do
mean?
you
What do you
mean?
mean? What do you mean? What do you mean? Yeah, what does that mean? You can't. I won't say you can't teach someone how to masturbate, but you can't say that you taught somebody how to masturbate while that person
And
is
not
sitting right there.
explain
Right.
what it is that you're talking about. Because
And
there are
then is
many
there
ways of teaching.
right, but then even then, is there an acceptable answer for that? Like, "Oh, yeah, I platonically taught somebody how to masturbate."
Right. Well, we were on separate beds across the room from each other. We were thinking about the same girl.
Yeah. But at
What?
some point, there's a coaching happening. See, that's the thing. Even if in my mind's eye, I could separate, like, okay, y'all are across the room. You don't look at each other. You handling your business. You handling your business. Tashi's on your mind. Let's just use Tashi as an example. We don't know who the
Right.
girl was at the time. She had a name, but it doesn't matter. She's not in this movie. And so,
She got
boom.
injured too. These boys are dangerous.
Well, they're tag teaming everybody, and that's not okay. So that happened. But when you start to like, all right, now next steps, like when you start to really start to coach, that's where I'm like, all right, this is too much for the kid. I'm out. I was like I said, I could logic my way through all of it. But when the guy across the room is like, okay, so now just like it's a cupping motion, you know, like when you start to get that kind of insight, you're like, all right, shut it down. We in the movie, dead ass.
Right. This is a very it's just
This is
one
a
of
video
those
podcast. Everybody's gonna see us blushing here, laughing and dying, talking about this.
well,
We're children.
but that's the thing that's so great about this scene of the movie. They're so young as their characters, and we're kind of all transported back to that like 17, 18-year-old mindset where you're like, wait, what do you mean he showed you how? Like, what are you talking
Yeah.
about? Like, were you silent? Like, what? Or were you silenced? Like,
It's like I want to know, but I also don't want to know, right? So it's kind of like, don't ask the question you don't want to know the answer to. Well, we found out, yeah, there was some masturbation across the room, there was some coaching, and afterwards there was just a mess. And they laughed and they don't really talk about it.
yeah.
Yeah.
They just never come back to this again as people. Like, they just compartmentalize this completely while having like hand motions for each other during tennis matches and like rolling around on the ground intertwined, like celebrating things together and
Very
pretending
women's volleyball.
pretending to be drinking out of your your like trophy together.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, you know, and then eating all of the phallic food ever made together.
Right. It's just like the underlying thought throughout this movie was like, now kiss. You know, like,
Exactly.
oh, okay.
Which
now
is
kiss.
exactly what Zendaya was like. She was like, okay, I will acknowledge that she did decide to kiss Art first, because she was
Mm-hmm.
just like, this one's too full of himself. I'm not gonna do this to society. So she
Yeah.
kisses Art first, then she goes back to Patrick, and then she like puts them together to kiss, and they get really into it, and she's just kind of sitting back like, look what I've done.
Well, she trapped them. So she's like in the middle. So they're kissing her. She even like throws her neck up, like, come on. And you know,
Mm-hmm.
the crazy thing is that this is Zendaya. So, you know, she's done this in real life. Stop it. Like, Zendaya definitely is the type of person who, if she leans her neck back long enough, people are like, oh, do I kiss? Is it time? And so she does it. And she's like, hey, come on. And so they both start kissing her neck. They're kissing her cheek. Then it got like a three-way like kiss. Like, oh, then it gets bisexual kiss. Then she just kind of slowly backs out, like, all right, let's see what happens. And they keep kissing until they finally open their eyes and look, and they're like, oh, what is, oh, so you just left. And the look on Zendaya's face is like it's the look that's plastered all over social media right now. She's on the bed, but she looks so pleased, like it's so happy. It's almost devious how happy she looks
It's
at the
great.
fact that she got these two guys kissing.
It's, I mean, and good for her. Like, I believe that Tashi Duncan should have what Tashi Duncan wants. And in this particular time, she wanted to get to bed at a sensible hour while still causing some mischief. So that is what she went to do. And we support her in all of these things. And then she just manages to have a chokehold over these men for the rest of their actual lives.
Yeah, for literally forever. So the next day we see them playing their asses off in tennis now because they have to impress her too. Remember, she's impressed by the competition. She wants to see the winner.
She said, I'll give you my number if you win.
Yeah, and they are cooking. I mean, Patrick is just like cooking. He's bowing to the crowd, all kinds of stuff. Now, we know in the future that this does not work out for Patrick because we get a lot of flashbacks in this movie, like a lot of them. So we know that like, it starts off Patrick's in a blender, but back then he was like very clearly the apple of her eye because he's winning this. Now, Patrick in the real time, Latonya, when I say he's going through, the man is swiping on dating apps, bisexual dating apps at that, trying to look for someone who he can sleep with so he has a place to sleep. The man is hobosexual. And it's you know, at this point anybody can get it. He's just like, I just need a place to rest my head so I can win this this little tournament.
Yeah, you see him in his opening scene, like when we see adult him, and he's just trying against all hope and dreams to use this credit card that he knows is maxed out. He even like tries to flirt with the like front desk attendant, and she's like, if you don't get your broke ass out of my hotel, like what are you doing? What would happen if we just gave beds away to everyone who wanted one? And this man is like going to sleep in his car on the grounds of the country club where he is hoping to get his next paycheck.
And it's a wild question. Like, what would we do if we just gave beds to people who needed them? Like, what if we housed the homeless, Latonya? What would that look like?
Huh. You know, that is a really good question.
Yeah. What if billion-dollar corporations just did nice things for people?
Huh. I mean, I don't know if they'd be billion-dollar corporations then.
I think once you hit $1 billion, you can start to make some risks, you know? Like, I'm sure, like, once you hit $1 billion, at that point, you got a little wiggle room to play with. You can give away a hotel could literally allot, like, all right, let's allot, like, maybe, like, 2 weeks a year to just random people who just need a place to stay. Like, the look, it was good enough for Jesus, you know?
Right.
You know, but whatever. Who are me?
Who am I, Jesus?
Right, I'm not Jesus, so maybe, you know, whatever. He's like that person at the front desk, like, find the nearest manger and knock yourself out. So yeah, in the present time, obviously he's struggling, but we see that him, Zendaya, and Art, they all still have this connection, you know, because he's trying to figure out, what are you even doing with Art still? Like, why is this a thing? And he can't really figure it out because he's like, you were supposed to be with me. Y'all don't fit. He doesn't even love tennis anymore. You can tell his heart's not in it. He's really speaking to the things that are turning Zendaya off from her husband.
Yeah, he straight up tells her, like, you hate him. What are you doing? Like, he definitely doesn't like you anymore because you're just tennis mom now to him. You're like the person who like demands he play tennis at all times. And she part of the way that she talks to Patrick in this movie is like some of the funniest stuff that I've ever heard. Just in terms of dialogue. Like there's one scene where this man is just trying to go back to a hotel near where he is so that he can have a date, so that he can have a place to sleep, and runs into Tashi because it's obviously Tashi's hotel. And he's like, "Oh, wow, your mom looks really good." She's like, "Yeah, I know my mom looks good, Patrick. What?"
And what about it? No, she's sick of him, which is crazy because should she be? Well, we find out later on that she is holding on to something that Patrick did and blaming him for it well into their adult life. But we haven't quite gotten there yet. One of the other things that happened when they were kids or when they were younger tennis players is that Patrick was very obviously going to make his move at Tashi at some point, whereas Art was a little bit more, I won't say timid, but he wasn't as outwardly trying to holler at her to the point where Art starts to question, Patrick, did y'all ever date? Y'all ever mess around? Y'all having sex? And he's like, what? No, he's like, well, I could tell, if you wanted to give me a sign, like if you served a certain way, or something like that, I would probably know, not to kiss and tell, but there are ways, like you said, these two people know each other so well that they have little signs and ways of speaking non-verbally that only the two of them would pick up on. And we find out very early on that, Patrick and her have messed around, or at least that's what Patrick says.
Right. And I mean, like, you would assume that is the natural thing, like progression of what would happen after he got her number, is that they would have sex. Like, I don't know what else they're doing if they're not. But if you need to serve to give us something to remember later for when an important thing happens in the movie, then by all means, I am a tennis fan. So please do this. Like, please make more movies be 3 set long tennis matches, right? With tie breaks at the end. Like, please make more movies like invent cameras to capture certain movements that happen in tennis. Like, this is the type of stuff as a fan of tennis that I like to see.
Yeah. No, this was a fun watch. Like, I'm not the biggest tennis fan. I root for my black women tennis players, and that's about it. So, Coco, Naomi, y'all know who y'all are. Serena, y'all know my people. And so I'm always rooting for them. But this made tennis way more entertaining. So we get through like a lot of the like, will they, won't they, of Patrick and Zendaya. They obviously do at some point. But at some point we realize that Tashi is getting better and better and better, and she's so driven, and she's got her eye on the prize. But due to her, I guess what she will look at it as her relationship with Patrick, she hurts herself. We watch her playing tennis, and I mean, her whole knee, I don't know where the ACL and MCL and all that stuff meet, but it looks like she jacked all that stuff up.
No, she dislocated some things during that match. You really think that was Patrick's fault and not Art's fault?
No, I actually don't. Like, I think Zendaya, Tashi, I think she blames Patrick.
Okay.
I don't think it's either of their faults. I think it's tennis. Like, I think people get hurt.
People do get hurt in tennis. There is something to be said for like the fact that Art arranged a lunch with Tashi before he knew that Tashi would be seeing his friend, because at this time they were still friends, her boyfriend, and was like, no, I don't think he's in love with you, and got her all in her head, and then met with him and was like, I don't think she's that interested in you, actually, based on a conversation we had during a meal.
Yeah. Yeah. But even then, I'm like, are y'all friends?
So like, it was just all out of whack by the time we got to the actual fight that took place between Patrick and Tashi. But at a certain point, I'm gonna be pissed at you. Like, if you tell me you don't want to be a member of my fan club and you know I've got a match in like an hour,
Yeah.
uh, that that completely threw her off. She was
It
so
did.
in her head that entire time.
Yeah. It was bad. This was bad. And yeah, it threw her off, but she's never able to forgive anybody for that, right? So it's just like from there, her attention completely shifts. Like she's no longer into Patrick at all. Like it is just art. It is art, is their relationship because now she's got to coach him up. Remember, she's still
Right.
driven by that competitive spirit. And so although she cannot compete, she has to now live through her relationship and the competitiveness of her husband, who she will go on to have a child with, and all that good stuff. And so, yeah, this becomes her new identity. And you can tell when he's not feeling it on the court, she's not paying attention. Like she's watching almost like the tennis match straight down the middle. Right, the ball is flying past her, but in a normal tennis match, and even in some of these intense ones during the movie, her head is left to right, left, right, left, right. And everybody's watching it back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. There are moments where she's just checked out. She's just there so she doesn't get fined.
Yeah. Because she knows that he's going through the motions of it, and like, why should they both be pretending at that point? And I love, there's a line like fairly early on in the movie where she was like talking about how their daughter enjoyed the hotel rooms, and he was like, we could just stay here. She's like, yeah, we could just be rich people.
Yeah,
That you think you can handle.
right. That's all there is to life. Like let's just be rich and just live here. That's it.
Yeah. Like you could do the foundation full time. We could travel. Or you could be a tennis player. You absolute dummy. Like, what do you like? She's so over by that time in her life. The fact that, her husband, who has had these injuries as well, not as severe as hers, but who has come back from injuries, has been able to win every Grand Slam title except for one, and that's the US Open. Like, he's had an incredibly successful career because of her. And the idea that now he just wants to give that up without acknowledging any of the sacrifices that she has made to even like be his coach in the first place is just unacceptable to her. And so she's becoming less and less attracted to him as time goes by.
Yeah. And so eventually we'll see Art and Tashi talking at a restaurant later on. I believe this is where the Applebee's of it all comes in. And he's saying, hey, you want to be you want to like coach? I could be like assistant coach. Like, what are we doing here? And she's like, do you think that's a good idea based on our history? And he's like, it feels like so long ago. Like that wasn't that long. I was like, y'all, this has been a while. Don't get me wrong. But like you said, Latonya, these people have a quantum entanglement. Like they have been ruining each other's lives since the day they laid eyes on each other, right? Like they've either been in love with each other, friendship has been lost and found and all kinds of stuff. Like, yeah, I think it's a little bit too close to home. And then she repeats again, I never wanted to be a homewrecker, but it's clear, Latonya, that the friendship does not survive the love triangle.
Oh, yeah. I mean, with the exception of a brief time in like a tournament in Atlanta, they don't see each other for 8 years or something like that. This movie flashbacks from like 13 years, then back to 8 years from then, and then it like goes back to the match itself that's going on. It's just the entire and like the most talk that we get about this happens during a scene in a sauna between the two men.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about that, but again, it gets bisexual. Okay, all right. So we're in a sauna. My guy Art is in there minding his own business, and Patrick comes in like naked is free, naked is naked. Like he comes in with just a towel on, like fuck the towel. I was just like, dog. It's again when you tease the homoerotic nature of the movie in the trailer, and everybody goes crazy. You kind of have to put this stuff in the movie, but it really, I'm telling you, Latonya, it just all of this just felt like okay, this scene, but make it gayer. You know what I'm saying? Like, how can we make this a little freaky for the freaks out there who are into this kind of stuff? And a lot of people were like, yeah, this is what I came for, because they thought it'd be more of this, and it's honestly just more innuendo than anything.
Yeah. It really is just the ways in which they like work to screw each other over mentally. Like these are
Mm-hmm.
all like Art knows exactly what he's doing going in there just like guns ablazing basically. Um
Mm-hmm.
and or Patrick does.
Patrick
And
does,
Art
yeah.
is just like, listen, I'm just visiting here. You live here. Like this is your level of
Mm-hmm.
terrible. I'm just making a stop. Um
Yeah.
and and there's this thing about being peers that's really important throughout the entirety of this movie. Like I'm your peer, respect me as like on this level. And Art does not see Patrick as a peer at all. Like
Yeah.
he's got the Bentley commercial, you know? Like that's
The
just
big ads on the side of the building as well, game changers.
game
Uh,
changers.
yeah, but you're right. They've mentioned being peers, and yeah, Patrick and Tashi. Well, I'm sorry, Tashi and Art, they're peers. They're like a power couple in tennis. Um, Patrick has not had the same level of success.
No.
Probably due to not having someone as driven as Tashi on his arm. Like seems like she has willed Patrick into this moment, because Art into this moment, because now that the like Art has lost his desire to really play tennis. He's struggling, and
Right.
Patrick has been struggling, but throughout this movie, it's clear that if Patrick wants to beat Art in tennis, he can.
Yes. But like even even Tashi points out the just like ridiculousness of Patrick's life, really.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like there's the scene where he like gets her outside so that he can smoke and like she and kind of like pitch to her that she should be his coach. And
Mm-hmm.
she slaps the hell out of him, which is great. Wonderful start to the scene. And she's just like, you don't even need to be doing this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You can just go to your family and ask them for money or ask them for a seat on the board, and you can stop doing this pretend poor boy routine that you seem to have perfected because you don't want to actually do any work in your life. Like,
Yeah.
what are you doing? Like, it was clear that it was never an option for Tashi to just kind of rest on her laurels. That's why she decided to go to college before
Mm-hmm.
turning pro, so that she would have something to fall back on. But like she did not grow up in the like country club circuit that these two guys grew up in, and she couldn't afford to be sent to a tennis boarding school. So
Mm-hmm.
she just kind of sees everything that they have are like these gifts that they are just throwing away, like throwing into the face of the tennis gods, and she will avenge the tennis gods.
Yeah. Going to college was a great idea for her, because what if something happens and you can't play tennis anymore? Well, we found out exactly what that
Hmm.
looks like, when she does hurt her knee. But you're right. They start off the conversation outside in what can only be described as a trash tornado. Um, it's a whirlwind of like dust and garbage just flying around in the air. They're talking about the idea of her being Patrick's coach, which of course we know Art would not go for. So
Right.
the moment that conversation starts, I'm like, this conversation isn't about coaching at all,
No.
because there are so many layers that you'd have to peel back before it would be plausible for her to be your coach, with the relationship that she currently has with her husband, with the relationship that you have with her husband. So um it seems like, she slaps him. It seems like she's on the right track. And then the next thing you know, whirlwind and all, trash tornado and all, they are kissing and making out on the side of the car. Next thing you know, they're in the back seat of the car. I'm like, all right. So Tashi, I've been showing you a lot of love this entire recap. But I know you did. Okay, so are you a home wrecker if you wreck your own home? That's the question. Because we don't. We're almost done with this, and we do have to say that of all these people, Zendaya Tashi is the one who cheated. Like, she is the one who has done the most egregious thing in these relationships to either of these men.
Okay.
Listen, you can support women's rights and wrongs, but I'm gonna call it out because that's a wrong. Ma'am, go dump your husband. You don't even like him.
Maybe she would like him more if he weren't being so pathetic all the time.
Right. Start competing. Look, Patrick's out here competing, and look at what she's doing with him.
Yeah, she is literally doing what she said she wouldn't do. She's like, you think I'm gonna throw it all away for you? You're woman, you're in front of your own billboard for a way better car, having sex in the car with a man who lives in his car.
Lives in said car. Yep, that is correct. Like, Zendaya, you make too much money to be having sex in cars. You know, it's like let's just call it what it is. Like, there are limos built for what it is that you're doing. I don't even remember what type of Chevy Cavalier that was that they were sitting in the back of, but I'm pretty sure that, like, I know a guy who lived in one of those as well. You know, and so I was like, Zendaya, do better. Like, this is the first time she's ever been in a car like that in real life. But yeah, they do it. They do the do. And then we get the flash forward now to the first time that Art and Patrick have seen each other since that day. So mind you, we talk about the tennis match. The first match, Patrick just packs Art up. The second match, Art wins. But Patrick is taunting him. I mean, like, sitting next to him.
The set.
Oh yeah, the set. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm saying match. I mean set. Yeah, look, the tennis pros out there are like, boo, this man. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Duh. I watch tennis for the plot. The plot being Serena Williams. So I watched this movie for the plot too. Yeah. So they're between sets. They've now split the sets. I think that's what you say when one person's won one and the other person's won the other one, yes. Right? And then there's some taunting going on. Patrick's eating a banana and staring right at him, and I'm like, why?
Can we talk for a real quick second about the line judge, the New Rochelle, like
the one that we've known? Yeah, this umpire is sick of their shit. Okay, sick of it.
So he is being played by Darnell Appling, who is Zendaya's assistant.
Oh, okay, cool. Because he's fed up throughout the entire tennis match.
I wish that tennis had judges like this. Like, I wish this was the umpire that people got. Are you kidding? That would be amazing.
Yeah, no, he's enough to tune in because he's not going to let you get away with nothing. He's going to judge you. He's giving you judging eyes every time you mess up. He's in the match just as much as they are.
He knows what is going on because he looks right at Tachi.
Right. They start eating that banana and he looking at her like, girl, what did you do? So, look, it pays to be Zendaya's assistant. You see a lot of things. And so, so we got down to the point where it's basically it's a tie. Now we see Patrick pull out an old move that we've seen him do before, and that his tennis serve is looking a little different. He does this thing where he signals the same signal he did a long time ago, that him and Zendaya, they have done it again. He's like, hey, if I had any questions, if you have any questions about whether I've slept with your wife, here's the answer. And for a second, I'm thinking, oh, Art's not going to be able to handle this. But then the competition kicks in. And even Tashi has to sit up because she's like, oh, they playing now. What happened? They are in it.
I mean, keep in mind that the night before, when Art was like basically just like praying to Tashi to please. Like, this was some like 90s level Jodeci begging.
Yeah.
That was happening. It was like, and he's like, all like, he's just a sad, pathetic man. And he's like, well, how are you even going to look at me if I lose to him again? And she's like, I'm going to look at you exactly the same way as I'm looking at you right now.
And her face doesn't change. She doesn't look like I'm looking at you as like someone who loves you and adores you. She's not like cradling his face like, babe, look. She's like, I'm going to look at you just like this. I said,
right. Well, because by the way, if you lose this match, I'm going to leave you.
I'm leaving. Bye. Because that's the vibe it gave. I'm going to look at you just the same way I'm looking at you right now. I was like, well, that doesn't sound supportive at all. I really think I got to win this one. And I'm thinking, but Art, You're the prize. This lady has nothing going for her. You're the prize now. You're the guy that she can't even play tennis. Why are you letting this woman cheat on you? And now you out here praying for her life. I'll play you in tennis for your heart. This ain't love and basketball. Like, why did we? I thought we learned from the mistakes of love and basketball. Look at you out here with your clown nose on this tennis court.
Listen, the tennis in this movie is the sex.
It is.
And the tennis got really, really good.
Really good.
After this
really
started
good.
happening.
Yeah.
These two men finally did what they have been trying to do for a whole 2 hour and 8 minute movie, which is make Zendaya scream.
Yeah. And she's in it. She is in it. And I mean, it's back. It's forward. Boom, 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 boom. I'm talking about it's all like this is I love when movies get really invested in just like one scene, right? Where you can tell they threw it all into something. Yes. It reminds me of maybe like the last scene in Whiplash, you know, where they're playing like they're playing the song Whiplash, and they're like, you're just like, oh my God, like what's happening, you know, and then it's just silence. That's the same type of moment that I was having here, where it was just like back, forward, back, boom. He's sliding over here, he's hitting over here, and I'm just like, oh my God, what's about to happen? And then we get this moment where I think it's Art jumps up and he's going to, I don't know if they call it a spike in tennis, slam the ball. I don't know.
An overhead.
Overhead, like he's jumped up in the air. It's in slow motion, like, oh my God, he's about to do it. And he does, but he essentially is caught by Patrick. Yeah, they hit the net. And I'm like, is that all? Like at that point, they're just like they're embracing.
Yeah.
And then the movie goes off. I'm like, so we won?
We like, first of all, didn't we win?
So, yeah, we did all win. Yes, exactly. We won.
This was a really good 2 hours of time spent at the movies. I feel like we all won.
Yeah.
The other thing is, I feel like everybody starts to get back, you know, the people that they need back in their like orbit. Like these two men needed to be enmeshed in each other in one way or another, right? Mm-hmm. Tashi needed to see the love of her life being tennis, where I feel like the love of Patrick's life is art. The love of Art's life is Tashi, and the love of Tashi's life is tennis.
Gotcha.
So in this like one glorious shot where they're just collapsing literally onto each other in exhaustion, heaving even, they all are getting what they want in this moment.
Right. Because Art wins the match or he loses?
I believe that Art wins the match. I think that this is honestly a point that they'd either have to replay or that they would give to Patrick, because he hit the net, and you like in tennis when you touch the net, that's like you lose a point. Yeah. So like but I think ultimately this does give the fire back to Art that he needed to continue on and to at least get the career Grand Slam, which is to win one of all of the Grand Slams. He's won multiple of some, but like none of the US Open.
Gotcha. So thruple, that's where we are by the end of this. Like this is call it what it is.
Yeah. I think like Lily has a new daddy to meet.
Yeah. And look, honestly, knowing how we got here, I support it, because Art can't perform without Patrick. Patrick taught him how to perform, you know what I'm saying? And Patrick, he likes Tashi, but he's also kind of a scumbag, and you know, she doesn't like him like that. But I think the three of them seemingly work pretty well as a group, as long as they can come to the, you know, the understanding that, you know, we are all in a relationship, and we also have to play tennis or she's going to leave us. And so I think throuple it up, make it happen. And then I think maybe at that point we get challengers too. Challengers revenge.
So an interesting thing about this, did you see Past Lives last year? This Leaf Vxllage movie?
I did not see Past Lives.
But you know a little bit about, well, I'll tell you. Okay, so the reason I'm bringing this up is because Celine Song is the wife of Justin Kurtzzieks, who is the writer responsible for the movie Challengers.
Okay.
And Celine Song's like Academy Award nominated opus, just a gorgeous movie, Past Lives, which you have not seen it and you are into longing and relationships and threes and thruples, then you should definitely see it. But like the fact that she came out with Past Lives one year and then the next year he comes out with this bisexual tennis thruple movie, I would like to know. I would like to have a conversation. You know,
yeah.
I just want to talk and see what's going
on. Because it does feel a little coded. This feels like y'all are talking to each other. These are the signals, like when Art and Patrick play tennis. You know, it's like, oh, well, what are y'all trying to say? What do you mean by that? So yeah, throuple. I'm here for it. Let them all be together because we haven't talked about these people's ages. She's telling this man to go back to his family and get on the board. He's like 31. Like this man is not. These are not old people who live long ass lives.
The way that they talk about it, because like you do have to, like with sports, your like longevity is really like short. Yeah. So the way that they're talking about it, like it's embarrassing to be out there doing this when you're 40. It's like, jeez.
Like God. Like as I knock on the door. But yeah, it's like embarrassing. Yeah, sure. I'm embarrassed too, right? We all embarrassed. Look, 31, this is the perfect time to pop off a little throuple relationship with some rich folk. You know what I'm saying? That's what rich people do that you didn't talk about.
Rich people really do.
Right. They spend their money so they can do the freaky stuff like this. And so
in beautiful places.
With beautiful people. Again, very attractive cast, very rich, and then also a little freaky. So as far as I'm concerned, I give this movie 2 thumbs up. Latonya, you are like the person I go to about the Oscar buzz. Does this feel like something that's going to be in those conversations?
I think it might be. I read a Vulture article where 2 different like Vulture pundits were kind of talking about what they thought the outlook was for this. A lot of like people are starting to say that Zendaya, this run that Zendaya is on, reminds them of a younger Julia Roberts run.
Okay.
And so this is incredibly early in the cycle in terms of Oscar movies. Yeah. But I could still see them doing like a re-release, especially because this movie, I think, has now surpassed every other Luca Guadagnino movie in terms of box office. And like opening weekends and stuff anyway. So I can see them doing a re-release of this closer to award season, just to be like, remember how much you love Zendaya? Remember how the reason that any of you enjoyed any of the stuff in this movie and how out there it was is because her money helped make it.
Yeah.
I can see her pushing herself in that way and like gearing up for an Oscars campaign. And she's due for an Oscars campaign, honestly.
Yeah. I think this is kind of this type of film that can do that. It's out of the box. It's not something we see all the time. It's with like you said, like I wouldn't even call her a rising superstar. Like it is with a huge name, and it's very attractive people, and they're doing something like you said that we normally don't see in these types of films. And so I think that it's just primed and ready to win at least SAG award or something like that. You know what I'm saying? So
something like that, yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, something for producing for sure. And
cinematography.
Just like cinematography, yes.
Yeah.
I can definitely see that happening, especially with someone like Luca at the helm. Like he's just an easy director to put out there and be like, hey, remember how he only makes the most ridiculous stuff? Well, we were the ones that brought it to you. And I know that Zendaya has technically campaigned for Oscars before. She's been in other Oscar nominated movies, but she hasn't been nominated yet for like any award that wasn't just being a part of an ensemble.
Gotcha.
And a lot of people are saying that Dune 2 is going to be the thing that does that for her. I'm not sure if I think that is the case. So I can see a good case for challengers.
All right. Well, we will see. Latonya, is there anything else we missed in the movie, or did we kind of sum up all the big moments?
I think The final thing I will ask is, what did you think of the "I'm taking such good care of my little white boys" line?
I just yelled. Again, that's one of those things that Zendaya can get away with saying, and a lot of people cannot.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know, but it's like, but are you taking care of them, Zendaya? Because it seems like you're ruining their life. I'm just saying. Which again, Zendaya, sign me up, ruin my life. It's fine. But no, that was a great line. There's so many great lines in the movie. I thought this movie was probably funnier than it probably seems at first glance. I think it's very
Yes.
funny, very smart. Like I said, very different than anything I've ever experienced before or seen. And so I enjoyed it. I'll recommend it to whomever. And hopefully you all, the listeners, enjoyed this too and enjoyed this recap. Latanya, this was so much fun. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much for having me. I will talk about this movie for hours and hours, as I have done now. So I feel like I have really completed everything I was meant to do today.
Yeah, and I had noticed, I talked to you about this earlier in the week, but the Book of Clarence is about to be released on Netflix soon. I believe it gets released like on the 11th or something like that. So if you don't mind joining me, I would love to talk about it because I've seen the beginning of it,
Yes,
but I think that was going to be one of our projects for
it was.
yeah, for the olden days back on the Connect on post show recaps, and we ran out of runway. And so Mari won't be here, but I would love to talk about it with you if you so choose.
I would love to talk about that movie with you. I'm excited that it's coming to Netflix because everyone knows that that's kind of like the clearinghouse where everyone gets to see everything.
Yeah, and so people will be talking about it hopefully, and then hopefully you and I can drop that so that there's a companion podcast to go with it. Until then, Latanya, where can people find you? What do you have working on?
I am covering the HBO Max show, The Sympathizer, for Silent Podcast with Naomi Calhoun. That show, wow. Robert Downey Jr. plays 4 different characters. And you feel every moment of it. It's really interesting. Park Chan-wook, though, so at least the first 3 episodes are his directing. So check us out there. Doing Pop Cultured, that's where I released the first Challenges podcast that I did for Brazilian Dragon along with Felipe. So check out that coverage. Check out my coverage of Top Chef, the Top Chef Wrap Up, where we welcome Owen of Survivor fame, to our most recent episode about the show. So I'm very excited about podcasting with him and then getting to meet him in like a week when we're in Chicago.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm just looking forward to all of that. You can follow me on Twitter at LK Starks if you want to know exactly what I am doing and what I am up to. And you can follow me on Instagram at Stormborn1222 if you would like to see pictures of everything we get up to next week. Well, not everything.
Not everything. You can't show them everything. Some of the stuff is left for the challengers only.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. To be clear, it gets real and there's 3
Yeah, RHAP only fans.
Listen, I won't be. Y'all know me. Y'all know I ain't participating in that stuff. But Latanya gonna do it. I'm gonna watch. But moving on. You can find me here on recapkickback.com. Obviously, if you are tuned in, hopefully you subscribed. If not, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button and become a part of the Recap Kickback community. You can follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/recapkickback. You can subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcast, recapkickback.com/subscribe. And then, of course, you can catch me in all the podcasts that we're doing. So recently I guested on the Was It Good Though podcast talking about 1996's The Nutty Professor, and it was so much fun and I had a blast. And go check that out, and I'll be plugging that until everybody is heard and seen.
And it was good though.
Yeah, it was good though. It really was. And the podcast, Latanya, is cracked. It is legit 2 hours of just foolishness. I think we talk about the movie. And so check it out. It's such a good podcast. So much fun over there with J and J. And so check that out. I'll put the link inside the show notes here. Other than that, you can still catch Summer House Martha's Vineyard coverage here on Recap Kickback, Abbott Elementary coverage here on Recap Kickback when we can have Abbott Elementary coverage, because it's been trying to get the scheduling done. But if you're here, you know it's coming. It's so look for it in your podcast feeds coming up soon. Me and Tyrone got a special project that we're working on again, so we're gonna bring that around as well. And then on RHAP, Sasha and I are talking about Below Deck. I'm talking to Rob about Survivor on Club Condo, on our Club Condo Survivor recap podcast, I guess I'll call it. Still doing Deal or No Deal Island Exit Press and Deal or No Deal Island podcasting. Talking about the GOAT as well with Jenny Autumn and MILF Manor with Puya and Rob. And so you can catch me in all those places on robhasawebsite.com, or of course you can find me here at home on recapkickback.com. But for Latonya and myself, you ain't got to go home, but you got to get the hell up out of here. We will catch you all next time. Peace. We did it.
Woo-hoo.
If it ends.